Number 9, solve for x. Each figure is a parallelogram. The reason they tell us this, that it's a parallelogram, is because if you just look at this drawing, you don't know what shape it is. There doesn't have any indication on the drawing that the lines are parallel. Now, as soon as they say it's a parallelogram, we now know those 5 properties we talked about earlier. Alright, so here we have this angle touching this angle, and so these are our consecutive angles, and we have talked about that when we have these two angles that they are going to add up to 180 degrees. So we just write that out, 6x plus 2, so this red angle plus the 130 is going to equal 180 degrees. So before we move something to the other side, it's always best to clean up what's on the same side. And so you want to take the 2 plus 130, and so you get 6x plus 132 is equal to 180. So now we can move that over. We do the opposite. We minus 132 from both sides. This goes away and we get 6x equals we're going to have 8 and 48. Alright, so we have 6x equals 48. Now we divide both sides by 6. And we end up with x equals 8. And so the directions were just solve for x, so our answer is x equals 8. Alright, number 10. So as we look at this, you need to figure out angle W is here, and so these angles are opposite, and opposite angles are equal. One of the whole main concepts of this unit is you have to decide, am I going to make these things equal or am I going to add them up to 180? Now, one of the things that helps me is, like we talked about earlier, this is an acute angle, this is an acute angle, so I'm going to make those two equal. Whereas this is an acute angle, this is an obtuse angle, they're definitely not equal, so you would never make these two things equal. Alright, so anyways, we have a 6x plus 8 is equal to 80. Now we just need to solve it, so we minus 8 from both sides. And so we get 6x equals 72. So if you're not good with your multiplication, instead of sitting there just trying to figure it out, just go off to the side and divide it. How many times does 6 go into 7? Once. Now you multiply. 1 times 6 is 6. Now you subtract. Now you bring down. How many times does 6 go into 12? 2. And so now 2 times 6 is 12. So we get 0. So 6 times 12 is 72. So we get x equals 12. And so the directions stated, all we need to do is find x. So the value of x is 12. If you wanted to make sure you were right, you could take that 12, plug it in here. 6 times 12 is 72, and 72 plus 8 is 80. And since these are opposite angles, they have to equal each other. Alright, number 11. Pretty straightforward, but one of the things that just drives me crazy is that every once in a while I'll have a student write something like 9 plus x minus 2 is equal to 180 degrees. And I don't want you to write that because that's absolutely wrong, because the degrees talks about an angle. Here we're talking about sides. So we would never want to say that 9 plus x minus 2 is equal to 180 degrees. one's talking about the length of a side, whereas one's talking about the angle measurement. All right, so here we know we've talked about opposite sides are equal, and so all we're going to do is say 9 is equal to x minus 2. So x is equal to 11. All right, number 12. So what we want to see here is that here we have our parallel lines, here we have our diagonal, and so that means that this angle here is going to be congruent to this angle here. And remember, we call that alternate interior angles. Sometimes I abbreviate it as AIA, alternate interior angles. So we know that this angle right here is 27 degrees. And so now I have a triangle, and we know that the angles of a triangle always add up to 180 degrees. So just take that first angle, 27, the second angle of 33, plus our third angle of 9x plus 21, and we're going to make those equal to 180. So we have 27, a 33, and a 21. So off to the side, just add them up. 27 and 33 gives us a 60. Now add the 21, gives us 81. So I have 81 plus 9x is equal to 180. Minus the 81 from both sides. So I get 9x equals and 99. Now divide both sides by 9. And I get x equals 11. All right, number 13, we have CE is equal to 34. So from here to here is 34. And they tell us that VE, so from, do it in this color, VE from here to here is x plus 7. So remember, the diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. So that means if the whole thing is 34, half of it would have to be, so if you're not sure about what half of 34 is, just divide it by 2. Okay, so half of 34 is 17. So that means that this piece here and this piece here are 17. So that means that this VE, that x plus 17, is equal to 17. So what happens when we solve this, we get x equals 0. And so it might feel like it's wrong, but if this is x plus 17, and we also know that this side is x plus 17, and we just figured out that x is 0, so if I plug that 0 in, and write 0 plus 17, that's just 17, that would make this side also 17, and that's what we said. 17 plus 17 equals 34. So this is the correct answer. Remember, 0 is a number, so it's okay to get x equals 0.